Caught Offside with Andrew Gunling and JJ Devaney.
Oh, yes! Caught Offside from the Upper West Side of Manhattan. Andrew Gunling and JJ Devaney. The group stage is but a memory. What's up, brother?
New haircut, not even mentioned.
You've been waiting. I've been with you for the last hour, and you chose this moment to say that. You wanted that to be on air and humiliate me publicly. I respect that.
You never said anything.
No, I didn't. Maybe that should signify something to you.
Wow. I always say you have a nice shirt when you trim your beard, when you do a haircut. I always mention it.
I've never known anyone to rip my sense of fashion more than you.
You're wearing a nice gray shirt today.
It is. What do you got on there? It looks like you just stepped off some sort of flight from Honolulu.
It's my holiday shirt. I feel like we're on a vacation tomorrow from the World Cup.
Your haircut, we're on a podcast. People can't see it. It's very Peaky Blinders. Did you ask for that when you went in there? Give me the Peaky Blinders.
Oh, you should have seen it yesterday. The guy kept saying, "I got you, bro. I know what you like. I got you, bro."
Oh, so you didn't even like this?
No, I like it, but the way he finished it yesterday was with hairspray and with back combing and with a hairdryer. So it ended up looking like a beehive from the 1950s or 60s.
What do you ask for when you sit down? Like me, I ask for the standard white male, and they know exactly what to do.
Because they saw you come in the door.
Right. But what is that? What do you even say for that?
Just say, give me a dollar store Olivier Giroud cut. And they look, they say, that's about right.
Well, mission accomplished. Oh, boy. What a show. What a show. What a show. We're going to talk with Roy Nemmer, who runs the website MundoAlbiceleste.com about Argentina, because to us they've been one of the most interesting stories of this tournament so far. So I'm really excited to speak with him because they got through by the skin of their teeth, and I can't tell if Argentinian fans are thrilled. Obviously they're thrilled, but how do they actually feel about this team right now? So we'll find that out from him later on in our What to Watch For portion of the show. Of course, we've got our 3 observations that you're not going to want to miss. A big mailbag, that's according to you. Red card, man of the match. I once again will do something in my man of the match that will annoy you, just like I did last week, but I feel like I owe it to the people, so I will do that. And before we get to today's action, because I'm so curious what you're going to say about the England-Belgium game, because I think I know you, but sometimes I don't. And so I'm very, very curious what you're going to say. But before that, we want to tell people that we would love to receive your reviews of this podcast on iTunes. It's important for our visibility as a show, and it's a good way for us to know, aside from even Twitter, of just what you all think of the job we're doing. But we don't expect you to just go there for no reason and say, I like it, I don't like it. We want you to go there and have some fun with it. So now that we're into the round of 16 of the tournament, go there and leave for us your favorite moment from this round. Like right now we're in the round of 16. So over the next few days, leave us your favorite round of 16 moment. And then on our next podcast, we'll go through maybe a couple of our favorite ones that you guys submitted, and we'll play that. And we'll continue to do that as we progress through each round through the remainder of the tournament.
Because it's been a group stage I've never seen anything like it in terms of people being so enamored with it and enjoying it so much. Because most people are usually like, oh, come on, let's get to the round of 16 quick as possible. And that hasn't been the case. Everybody's enjoyed it so much. So let's get some of the good memories from the good teams that are going home. There's so many good teams going home.
To get people started, what would your round of 16 one be? I mean, mine obviously is going to be really, really biased. But the USA-Mexico in 2002. I mean, and honestly, for me, I don't even know what would be close to that.
Round of 16 moment?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'll say Donovan's goal from that game. For me.
I don't know. Put me on the spot there.
I did. I really did. Well, then you can leave a review. Have some time to think about it, and you can review this podcast. You'll probably give it 2 stars. I hate Andrew. I suppose under some burner account.
I suppose I could go with the Packie Bonner save against Romania for Ireland in the round of 16.
There you go.
Penalty save.
Let's get into today's action. Group H and Group G in full effect. We'll go through Group H somewhat quickly here. I don't want to completely breeze over it. Japan falls to Poland 1-0, but they do go through by virtue of Colombia defeating Senegal 1-0, but there's more. For the first time in history, FIFA Fair Play was called in to decide who advanced.
Yeah.
I don't like it.
It's not great, but
I don't like it. And I last time on the show we talked about how awful drawing lots would have been. This is not quite to that level, but I still don't like it. And I give Cisse, manager for Senegal, a lot of credit because afterwards he couldn't have been like more professional about it, saying, I don't feel better about this ruling at all. This is the rule. We knew this, and so we move on.
And Cisse knows. He knows in his heart of hearts that taking the lead twice in their group game against Japan, their second game, they should have 6 points going into the game against Colombia this morning, and they should have been home and hosed. He knows that.
It just feels to me, the reason I don't like it mainly is that it just feels a little bit too much like a technicality that they've gone through on. You know, as it is, we don't like when penalties decide games because it feels a little bit like a removal from the norm. But at least that's a guy stepping up and kicking a ball into a net to try to beat a keeper. Like, that is soccer-based action. This, yes, you could say this is too, but, you know, we see yellow cards that maybe, you know, could go either way sometimes. I don't know. I just wish there was a different method that they could get to. And I feel empty because I don't have one. Maybe goals from open play. I don't know.
You in the past have suggested corner kicks.
I never would do that. What does that even mean?
Shots on target doesn't work either because, I mean...
I know. There's no good way, but it feels like that this is not necessarily a method that would present the best team being the one that advanced.
Stuart James of The Guardian tweeted the Japanese coach's comments afterwards, and he went into detail because he wasn't feeling great about it either. When I put on Hasibi, I told him what was in my mind. Do not go for any high risks. I told him not to concede any yellow cards. Go 4-1-4-1, defensive. And then I told him to tell the team to stay put. And this is what he said about the end. It was just the situation that forced me to make the decision, and we did not go for the offense. And my decision was to rely on the other match.
Ooh, that's a dangerous game.
I'm not too happy about this, but I forced my players to do what I said. I mean, it worked out, but
yeah,
Lordy.
He even went further and referred to the decision as very regrettable. That is some brutal honesty from him, so I really expect that from Akira Nishino. But and in the end, it worked. So give Japan their due. They were in a group that we were not totally sure of. The one thing that most people did think was that Japan was the fourth of the four teams.
Certainly, and you know what? They hung in there in that Senegal game. Maybe I'm being unfair, but yeah, I thought Senegal were... I think Senegal should be in the second.
I feel kind of bad.
16.
Of all the teams to not progress to the next round, they're kind of the one that I sort of feel the worst about.
I mean, Gay, Kouyaté, Ismail Sarr. There's some players. Mane.
Yeah.
Koulibaly. Like, they were good. But they had these lapse moments, let's be honest. They beat Poland. They should have beaten Japan. It really comes down to that for me, and they didn't need to worry about today.
You're absolutely right. And for Colombia, props to them. They get through despite James just clearly not... He's just so clearly not 100%. Unable to start in the first game. Had to come off really early in this game, and he's the guy that you look at as being their best player.
Why did he go the full 90 against Poland when they were so clearly ahead of them? Madness. Why did he come on against Japan when they were down to 10 men and maybe they just should have taken the loss on that one? Don't know. Well, I don't know.
In fairness, they did come back and tie that game and then wound up losing.
I know, but they were still at 10 men. And
you're right, but there was a chance to salvage that.
Yeah, but isn't it better to say, this guy's so important to us, let's try and get 6 points in the next 2 games?
Ultimately, you're right, and we don't know his situation moving forward just yet.
They were bad again today.
The other element of this game that I did want to mention too is I thought VAR really came through in a big way. And I know this is here comes Spursy Andy. Davinson Sanchez made one of the defensive plays of the tournament with the tackle that he had.
Great tackle.
Initially ruled a penalty, went to the review, and then
not even close to a penalty.
Everyone got to see how really talented of a player he was in that moment, and it saved what was probably going to wind up being a goal, and it might have saved Colombia's World Cup. So really a huge moment there. I'm glad Colombia are through. I've really enjoyed watching them in this tournament. I said that after the previous.
Really?
I really have. I thought their performance.
Poland aside, what have you enjoyed?
All right, well, Poland that's a little bit of Mrs. Lincoln because they've only played 3 games, and one of them they were spectacular.
All right.
I get what you're saying. In the first game, the red card so early on wasn't great, but
today they weren't good, Andrew. They've got players, and I look at their starting 11 on paper, and I'm thinking if you get a tempo into this team and really move the ball, they can be good, and they just don't do it yet.
Well,
maybe they will.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that I've always thought a little bit more highly of them than you have. Going back to our group preview when you crushed them. So
I don't think I've been particularly wrong. For the talent they have, they've got to be better.
Well, I think defensively they've been very good, and that's probably something that most people wouldn't have expected from them throughout this. What have they given up? Just the 2 goals in a game where they were down 10 men for the vast majority of it?
Yeah, but look at the way they gave up.
Pretty
the first
good.
The first one led to everything else, so,
And then Group G. I have literally nothing to say about Tunisia and Panama.
No.
2-1 is the final. Tunisia do win, so congrats to them. England and Belgium. And
Come on, England!
Belgium win it 1-0, and this game has been the source of a lot of controversy for reasons that shouldn't have surprised anyone, the number of changes that both teams made coming into this. I think we all thought that was coming, but for some reason, the outcome has shocked people and put people in a state of rage over Gareth Southgate's handling of it. Now, I'm not trying to tip my hand, although I kind of have, I think, in just my general tone on this. What do you make of what England did today?
I swayed 2 ways on it. First of all, I was okay with it, and then I kind of thought about it a little bit more, and I'm looking at it from terms of momentum for England going into the round of 16, the collective, the rhythm that they're in now. Was it wise to disrupt that in a game against Belgium? And then I sway the other way and I think, does it really matter? Does it matter? Surely that he can put out his first 11 again and they can click into gear. People were going on about disrespectful towards the tournament and things like that.
Stop.
We got those tweets.
I'm sure we did, but
I've seen that several times in the past. Coaches cutting their cloth to suit their measure going forward and settling on results.
First of all,
but I'm happy for Gareth Southgate to do whatever he wanted to do. I mean, on reflection, is he thinking tonight we should have gone for that, won it, and take Japan in the next round?
You think he's thinking that?
Maybe.
I don't. And if he is, I would tell him not to. I would tell him he did the right thing.
Because then he's potentially looking at in a quarterfinal. He's looking at the winner of Brazil and Mexico.
By the way,
which is going to be Brazil more than likely. But
I'll get to all that.
The other path is much more suitable.
Of course.
But it's kind of taking Colombia for granted. And when England do that,
I wouldn't even say that. First of all, to answer the first point about is he halting the momentum that they had built up. So all of a sudden that matters. So, for example, in a Premier League match prior to a key Champions League match, we see all the time teams resting certain players because they want them fresh for the game that really matters. That matters even more so in the Champions League. No one really has a problem with it. That's an accepted fact. So I don't view this as really any different than that.
See, I favour England slightly against Colombia, more than slightly actually. So I think the pragmatist in me says to me that this is actually good because there is a clear path to a final.
Here's what Gareth Southgate said. I'm going to read his quote here. We've got 20 outfield players that have played in a World Cup, and that's hugely important for the feeling in our camp over the next few weeks. I had to balance that, and I know in some quarters that will be criticized, but I'm entirely comfortable with that. Sometimes you have to make decisions for the bigger picture. This was a game we wanted to win, but the knockout is the biggest game for a decade for us, and we had to make sure our key players were preserved. You have to look at the bigger picture sometimes and make decisions, which in some quarters might be criticized, but everyone understands in the dressing room and in the group what we're trying to do. I could not agree more. I'm okay with this because he continues to reference the bigger picture, and he's 1,000% right in doing so. You just said it, JJ. England have a real chance here.
Clear path to a semi-final. I misspoke.
Right, yes. But they've got... this is not just about reaching the round of 16. This is about more than that. They could get potentially to a World Cup final. I know it could get hairy at the semifinal, but there is a path here, unlike what we typically see for them. But even getting
to a semifinal is a massive achievement, considering how many times have they done it since the boys of 66?
Once
in 1990.
So that's it. And yes, you're right. Did they wind up with a more difficult round of 16 opponent in Colombia over Japan? Yeah, I would say that they certainly did. But England are a better team than Colombia. They should win. And if they do, the path is there to territory that, like you said, they've gone to one time since they won it all in 66. They can do that here. And in not going berserk for this win, in getting other players some World Cup experience, which I think is valuable, and getting to rest marquee guys, I think he's shown that his eye is on a bigger prize rather than just reaching a quarterfinal.
Yeah, definitely. And you can't criticize him for that kind of management nous or that foresight or that thought to look ahead and then you know what, the English media crush him if he put out that 11, his starting 11. Harry Kane picks up an injury or a knock, Raheem Sterling picks up an injury or a knock, although they'd probably be delighted at that with their warped sense of...
No, but your point is so right.
You know what I mean? So I don't think he can win. I think Southgate's dead right to take his own path. I know I swayed back and forth on it. I also swayed back and forth on it a little bit because I'm so conditioned to English teams at tournaments thinking far too little of the next opposition in line and ultimately stumbling. But in my heart of hearts,
But I don't think he did that here.
No, I don't think so either.
I mean, he references resting players to make sure we're good for that Colombia game. I don't have any problem with any of this.
And Belgium now end up potentially with Brazil in a quarter-final.
I mean, what's the media who are ripping him today for doing this? What are they going to be saying if they get past Colombia? And now they've got either, Sweden or Switzerland in the quarterfinals. And they get through that. And now again, I don't want to put the cart before the horse, but he's playing the odds here. I mean, for England, all the criticism, round of 16 and out, quarterfinal and out, like he sees that there's something that can happen here more than just some other tournament. And he's going for it. I got no issue. None. I didn't think we would agree because you're kind of more JJ traditionalist. No, you play to win. You put your best 11 out there. Let the chips fall as they may. Don't take anyone for granted. All that. So you've surprised me yet again.
You're just happy we agreed on something. I know. I tend to go. I just got the feeling watching the game, and I couldn't shake it, that this didn't matter.
I don't know. I don't think I'm quite willing to say that. Look, maybe he put out a team of guys that he wouldn't put out there for a game that mattered more to him, but you can't tell me it didn't matter to those players. I mean, Jamie Vardy's trying to score. You know, their chances may have been somewhat few and far between, but I think the players who were out there tried to win, tried to at least tie that game. So I don't know. I wouldn't necessarily... Maybe the manager felt one way, but the players who played in that game, I wouldn't say that it looked like they weren't trying to win.
Daniel Storey, who is an excellent writer for Football 365, read him regularly. I know a lot of our listeners do too. He would be on my path of JJ traditionalist thinking usually. Here's what he tweeted. And I retweeted it, not because I agree with it, just to throw it out there. Daniel Storey, not often, I hope I'm wrong, but I think that was a really poor night. Gareth Southgate said he wanted to top the group, but when you bring on Welbeck over Kane at 1-0 down, clearly disproves that. Piles on the pressure. George Culkin, who writes for The Times, replied to this. Didn't enjoy that. Feels like a loss of momentum to me and raises questions, which will be poured over tediously rather than answers. Understand the worth in giving other players time, but at a cost of deflation. And Daniel Storey replies, shameless, but exactly what I wrote today. Having become the first England manager for a long time to coach without pressure, Gareth Southgate has certainly piled it back on. Just to give the other side to it, I do see their point, but I'm more with you.
Yeah, I just don't know if I buy the loss in momentum. I feel like there's a lot based on that ideal, and I just simply don't agree.
And there's no way that Kane is sitting on the bench, or Sterling is sitting on the bench, or any of the other definite starters from his preferred 11, and looking at that team feeling deflated that they're not playing. They knew this would be coming. I'm sure they discussed it in team meetings. I'm sure they realised that this is what is potentially best for the team going forward, and I'm sure they're okay with it. Also, as well, it keeps a very happy camp.
Getting players worked in and World Cup experience. 100%. And now if these guys get called on, I mean, now it's not going to be Trent Arnold-Alexander's first moment if he's forced to come on in say a game against Colombia or Spain down the line or so. I don't know. I think that this was kind of a damned if he does, damned if he doesn't. That he could not win in this situation. The only way he can win is if they now go out and continue to win.
Well, I'm glad we've put both sides out there, though.
Of course. No, there are two clear sides to this. Don't get me wrong. I'm not blind to see why this is a controversy. I totally get it, but I just happen to really pretty strongly fall on one side of it. So I'm kind of rooting for them to win even more so now because I don't want this to be second guessed because I really think he did the right thing. And if they wind up losing, I don't even know if this will wind up being the reason. So I don't know. I kind of feel bad for the position that he found himself in here, and I don't want it to come back to bite him. So there you go, England and Colombia. We'll get to our what to watch for coming up a little bit later on, where we'll give you all the matchups coming up for the round of 16. But before that, we've got our World Cup observations. 3 observations from each of us over the past 3 days since our last podcast. My first one here is really the obvious one, and that, of course, is that Germany are out. Now, what I'm trying to sift through here is kind of the same exact thing that as American fans we were trying to sift through after the U.S. didn't qualify, and that is this determination as to whether or not this is a sky is falling moment and it all needs to be blown up, or if this was a team that for whatever reason found itself in poor form at the worst possible time.
I would go with the latter on this. I think we've seen that Germany has the talent, and I read Rafa Honigstein's piece today. Now, I have my own opinions on it. I thought, I'll start with my opinions first of all. I thought the speed of play of this German team and the invention that was needed was never there to break down teams that were going to lie deep. Mexico lay deep and sprung a trap, and what Germany did was what they did wrong was twofold. They had a lumpen midfield that couldn't run, that was completely overran and played far too high up the pitch and didn't protect its defensive. Boateng, Hummels didn't give them any cover, and so they were overran. And also they didn't have the creativity to pick the locks. Ozil went missing too much. Kroos is not that kind of player. I think we've seen that now. He's a good metronomic presence in the middle of the field, but he wasn't creative enough for Germany, and they didn't seem to have that. They didn't have that X factor, and they also had a guy who loves to run in behind with his pace in Timo Werner, who, well, where was the pace? Either against South Korea or Mexico, those things didn't happen. They didn't really even happen against Sweden, except when Werner went to the left, bet his man, free kick, and they got a goal. They ground out that result. This was a team that was slow in midfield and was lacking creativity. That's what I took from that whole Germany team. Rafa agreed on those points in his piece, but he also went on and said that there was a complacency in this side, that they were a tournament team. There's a German phrase even for this. Turniermannschaft. I know I'm mispronouncing that, but that they are built for the tournament. And the view was from Jogi Löw was, don't worry, we'll be fine once the tournament comes round. But their friendly games, unusually for friendlies, belied a larger problem in this team, which was complacency. You even saw it in the South Korea game. There was a lack of discipline and a complacency where you see Neuer up the field, take in almost a left midfield position, taking a player on. Those are all the reasons collectively. I don't think it was a talent thing. These guys are at their peak, actually. Most of these guys are in the sweet spot.
Yeah.
It was a failure of management, a failure of selection. He tried too many things that didn't work. He didn't know his best side. He also didn't have the tools to break down deep-lying teams. He's got to know teams are going to do that against Germany.
Of course.
Now, there was an interesting, one more final point that I'll go on, and it's from Michael Calley, who is, he's a stats guy who I put a lot of belief in, and this is what his graphic showed. Expected goals for Germany versus Korea, and it tells a lot. Obviously, Germany should have scored one of those free headers. Matt Hummels.
My God.
But creating very little besides headers off crosses isn't exactly the German attacking plan. They didn't play between the lines. They didn't find key telling passes like they're able and capable of doing. Also, I went back to 2010 to watch them play England. When they hammered England. Mm-hmm. The pace in their midfield completely overran the English midfield. Like Gareth Barry trotting back, James Milner just struggling. The flip was done to them in this World Cup.
Yeah, a name you didn't mention, Thomas Muller. In 10 and 14, those World Cups, he combined for 10 goals and 6 assists. He had 0 and 0 in this one. I mean, he was largely invisible. It's interesting, too, because Mesut Ozil takes so much heat at Arsenal, and he's taking the same exact kind of heat now for Germany.
Some of that heat should be spread out amongst the team.
It certainly should, because I saw a stat that I was blown away by, because you wouldn't know it by the things people are saying right now, but you mentioned the expected goals from the South Korea game. How about chances created? Because Mesut Ozil led everyone with 7 chances created in that game.
Right.
It's hard for me to sit here and see that and say, oh, well, he was invisible. Well, he was doing more, it seems, than a lot of other guys were.
Also, as well, Pat Nevin made this point to the BBC, and if you need pace in the midfield, young legs, why isn't the great white hope of German football, the guy who's going to, oh my God, he can play everywhere. Why isn't Joshua Kimmich playing in the centre? Why not put him in there? That's not a zany move. You need legs there. Put him in there. Let him sit. Let him screen. Let him do the running. And push. If those guys want, the Kroos and the Ozils of this world want to be further up the field, that makes sense to have someone like Kimmich there. Why not do that?
You're absolutely right.
It was never done. Never even countenanced. They were poor. They were just poor collectively. They were poor individually. And I implore everyone, read Rafa Honigstein's piece. It's really, really good. And Andrew, we played the Rammstein, the dangerous music. The German machine was rolling again after the Swedish game. And now this is what we should play.
Ooh, the German! Thank you, Mr. Burns. It's interesting because I read that piece by Rafa Honigstein, and he also talks about, you mentioned the word complacency, and it seemed to be a complacency of the old guard, the guys who were on that roster of the 2014 World Cup winners, as opposed to the incoming young talent, guys who won in the Confederations Cup, that B squad. And it sounded like there was no competition really for first 11 spots, that the old guard of 2014 had their spots on lockdown, with a couple exceptions.
Well, he never kicked on from the Confederations team. You remember Stindl played, had a great tournament. They didn't really take the guts of that team and say, I'm going to put that right into the new team and freshen it up.
Right. Now, the only issue is this, though, because I went back and I looked at the members. Okay, who was on the 2014 side for Germany that was also on this one? Neuer, Kroos, Muller, Hummels, Ozil, Draxler, Boateng, Ginter, and Khedira. So, I mean, that actually feels like, first of all, not a ton of guys. That's, 9 guys on the 23-man roster who were also on the 2014 side. So there is still a large number of new talent that was injected into this German side. And I mean, from that list, those are good. Like, who are you not playing? Yeah, I mean, obviously, look, Khedira goes in and out kind of depending on what the score is and what they need Germany to do in a situation. But, Kroos, obviously, Muller, Hummels, Ozil, Draxler.
Those guys went missing, and maybe they were complacent in their mindset. But this Turnier Mineshaft idea that we turn up at tournaments, it has to stay in Germany for a long time.
Now, I asked at the beginning of this, is this a sky is falling moment? You and I both, I think, are in lockstep here that it's not. It's really not.
Well, what are they? Euro 2020, they could be serious.
And that's why I want to mention this to you. I read this today in The Guardian from Uli Hesse. He said this, ready? I'm reading from his article in The Guardian. First, Lowe has to step down. No, this is not a popularist call for heads to roll. I'm merely stating the obvious. Actually, there are many good reasons why he should stay on, starting with the fact that his only logical successor is unlikely to leave Anfield anytime soon in Jurgen Klopp. But the unwritten rule says our national coach has to resign if the team is knocked out in the quarterfinals of a tournament. Lowe would probably have been the first Germany manager to break this, and may even have kept his job if the team had been eliminated in the round of 16 by the likes of Brazil. But the group stage, no way. What do you think of that?
I'm not sure he has to step down. But maybe he's too long in the job. Maybe the complacency, maybe the voice, maybe it needs freshening up. It mightn't be that he's necessarily... The point Rafa made towards the end of his article is sticking to me now a little bit. He's no longer a World Cup winning manager. He's the guy who led Germany to their worst finish since 1938 as we enter Euro 2020. So maybe it is time for a change and a new voice.
I understand the shouts from people who are really angry in the moment. I wouldn't do it, though. Not yet. First of all, like he even mentions here, there is no natural successor in the moment. I'd give him through 2020. I'd like to see how they perform at the European Championships under this manager. He's done so much for Germany, and bringing them back to the prominence that we always have viewed Germany to be in this sport. I think he's earned the opportunity to coach this team through one more major tournament. And for us to find out if there's really a true problem here or if this was just a bad patch that they can learn from. I wouldn't fire him. I think that's unbelievably harsh to me. All of this, by the way, of course, is leading up to one of my favorite things to do and one of your least favorite things to do. Yeah! Germany trivia. I'd say you've done so far.
All right.
But here you go. Ready? Since 1994, Germany's 3 points in this World Cup were bad, but there are actually 2 defending champions that had worse performances. Can you name them?
France 2002.
Correct. With 1 point.
Yeah. And Let me see who was worse than that. So it was in Brazil in 2006. And it was in 10. Who would it have been? Oh, Italy.
Correct.
Italy in 10
That's
were
right.
awful. Italy in 10 were dreadful.
That's
I'd
right.
forgotten how dreadful they were.
That's right. France in 02 with 1 point, Italy in 10 with 2 points. Your next question. Germany finished the tournament with just 2 goals, second fewest ever by a defending champ, behind
2 goals. France in 02.
That's right, with just 1 goal. And last but not least, this is for perfection. It's become a recent trend for defending champs not to progress. 4 of the last 5 have not made it out of the group stage. But before 2002, it hadn't happened since this team.
Hadn't made it out of the group stage.
Defending champ.
Okay, you got to give me a second here now.
Yeah.
So, it was in Brazil in 98, obviously. 1990, the champions were West Germany, and in 94 they got out of the group stage. 86, Argentina again. Wow, we're going back.
Yeah.
82 was Italy.
If you're going to do this, we might be here for a while.
Oh, go on, tell me. I'm not sure.
You're not even. You have a chance of perfection.
Well, I know. Did Italy get out in 86?
I'm going to count down from 10. All right, in my head.
Holland.
No,
they weren't.
When did Holland win?
Oh my God, what am I talking about? No, they were finalists. They never won it. God love
The
them.
answer is Brazil in 1966. It went all the way from 66 to 02 for a defending champ to get out of the group stage every time, and now 4 of the last 5 have not. I don't really know what to make of that.
That's weird.
It's a very strange trend.
Well, it's also probably the game has changed in terms of the primacy of the club game, and maybe that has something that plays into it a little bit. Maybe. I don't know.
Yeah, I really don't.
It's hard to put your finger on.
I wonder if it's an issue of motivation, if it's just hard to keep core groups who have won a World Cup in this day and age
keep them at
motivated.
the top level.
I really don't know. I really, truly, maybe
in 66, Pele was kicked out of the tournament.
I do wonder maybe if you're on a World Cup winning team, there's a good chance all of your players are playing at like only a couple different clubs in Europe that are going deep into the Champions League every year. I mean, maybe there's just more wear and tear on guys who are playing on teams capable of winning World Cups. I really don't know. But it's a very strange trend that Germany now becomes the latest to be a part of. Second observation. What do you have?
Messi. This is a little bit of an ode to the beautiful game and the beautiful moment, so bear with me. Argentina's opener against Nigeria. Just close your eyes, think about the goal, and listen to this from our friends at Argentinian TV.
Le queda la pelota a Ever Banega, la tira muy buena para Messi, muy buena para Leo, bájalo, Leo en el área, defina que está, ¡gol! 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 Argentino de Leo, argentino viejo nomás, Leo viejo nomás, Argentina 1, vamos Argentina, carajo, Argentina 1, Nigeria 0, qué golizo, compadre de mi vida, qué golazo.
The ball from Banega was perfect, but everything after that was sublime. Messi's jump whilst running, the left thigh control at full pace, the touch with the left boot, the finish with the right, the net ripples, a deafening roar. Messi on his knees giving thanks to someone beyond the flesh and bone realities of man. The TV cameras pan to the stands into the box of Diego Armando Maradona, who was in a full embrace of himself, a metaphor for most of his antics at this World Cup so far. Channeling the spirits. Possibly something else. Maradona says white wine, but whatever. That goal was utterly intoxicating.
It was beautiful.
Thank you.
Ball just sticks to him, doesn't it?
What a way to... I'm angry with you now. What a way to dumb it down. Ball just sticks to him, done it.
I'm sorry I didn't write a poem.
I wrote a poem, and that's what you come out with. Forget about it. Move on.
All right, that was one response, I suppose, to a seemingly normal comment. Let's see. My number 2 observation here is just how wide open this field now feels to me. When we came into this, it kind of felt, at least to me, like there was Brazil, Germany, I'll even maybe put France in there, and then a bit kind of a drop-off after that. But really, we all sort of believed that it would be a Brazil versus Germany final. The Germans are out. Brazil has looked okay. France has been very meh. Spain have been very meh. It just feels like this is all there for the taking in a way that a lot of us maybe did not expect when we entered this thing.
And that's what made it so enjoyable. The group stages, like I said before, sometimes they can be a real drudge.
Here are the updated odds, by the way, according to one website. I don't know if they're all the same. I think Odds Checker is where I was. Brazil are still the favorite. Then Spain, which I think a lot probably of that has to do, not with how they've looked, but with which side of the bracket they now fall on, an easier road potentially to the final. Then Belgium, then England, fourth, then France, fifth. Those are your top five. So very, very interesting how this field has now played out. Third observation, what do you got?
Mexico, you had one job. The fact they are through is all that matters, and I get that, but in another way, is it really all that matters? That was as calamitous a collapse as I've ever seen from a team who held their fate in their own hands against a team that was hardly a major attacking force of the World Cup so far. Right before half-time, with the game at 0-0, Sweden put together a load of passes and a move, like a coherent move from Sweden, with such ease that you thought they can definitely cause Mexico a problem in the second half. They absolutely did. Physically outmatched by Berg and Toivonen up front, Mexico fell apart. Alvarez was in tears by the end because of his own goal, but he thought he'd done something dramatically bad, but it was 2-0 anyway.
His reaction, though, watching him, it almost brought me to tears to see just how distraught he was, and probably just the relief he was feeling. But like you said, it was only a cherry on top.
Yeah,
that moment.
It was just icing on the cake of utter. What's a terrible cake? What's a cake you don't like?
I like all cakes: carrot, cheese.
Cheesecake, all right.
You don't like cheesecake?
I'm not a big cheesecake guy.
That's a lie.
I'm just trying to think of a cake. They got through thanks to South Korea and Matt Hummel's crap attempts at a header, but you have to think the last 16 versus Brazil will be the end of the line for L3. I'm not sure they recover from this.
I had a moment of real American bitterness watching this play out, because when I was watching the game at work, I kind of said, Mexico bailed out again, and I was with somebody who didn't necessarily know what that reference was to, and so I mentioned, just sent me down that dark path of remembering how the U.S. saved them in 2014 World Cup qualifying, and then how they didn't return the favor, and now here they are again in a situation where they bleep the bed and get bailed out once more. It just feels like, this string of fortune that they've had in some of these results. It worked me up all over again.
Yeah, your ability to string that together and make it about you is pretty incredible.
I know. Well, I think that's normal, though, for a rival to watch their arch rival experience fall.
Yeah, but it's
backwards.
Tedious, and I'm bored of it, and I'll get to that later.
My third observation. Oh God, my third observation is just simply the breakdown of who made it to the knockout stage and who did not. UEFA sent 10 teams of the 16 into the knockout stage. That ties a record for several times it's happened: 86, 90, 94, 98, and 06. Then CONMEBOL with 4, CONCACAF with 1 in Mexico, Asia with 1 in Japan, and none for Africa. 0 coming out of the African continent.
First time since 82.
How about that? Mailbag?
Yep, we got one at COSoccerPod, cutoffsidepod@gmail.com. I can't read all of them, guys. I'm trying to. I actually do read all of them. I just don't read them all out on air. So please bear with me and keep sending them. Don't think that I don't appreciate them. Cyril Lartigue starts it off. Are VAR officials the ultimate full kit wankers? It's kind of true. They are.
There's really no reason for them to be wearing that.
Yeah.
You're 100% right.
I would expect them not to wear a t-shirt that says I pooed on it or something like that. But at the same time...
No, but when baseball goes to a replay back to their offices in New York, I don't expect that person to be in full umpire regalia.
It's hilarious.
They're wearing a shirt. Yeah, you're right. That's a great call.
I wonder, do they wear it out the door of work into their car? Like full kit wankers.
Cleats and all.
Yeah, with a cup of coffee. See you in the evening, honey. Tristan Gillibrand Kunkel, I know it's bigger than Mitrovic, but I think him not getting any calls, then becoming aggressive and fouling other players on constant repeat cost Serbia at least 2 to 3 goals alone. It's a good shout. Charlie Steen, I understand why people like JJ, have no desire for VAR, but this tournament has been a glowing review for the product. No, it hasn't. It still has kinks, but it looks like it is here to stay. Glowing review.
Don't be that guy, JJ. It's gone a lot better than you thought.
A lot better than I thought. Still, glowing review. No. Michael, hey guys, love the pod, and I hope Sean Dyche can offer some insight on my issue. I'm just wondering why Europe hates CONCACAF so much. No African nation made it out of the group stage, but you don't hear them calling for them to lose World Cup bids. At least we had Mexico in this down cycle.
This is the world's chance to make fun of the U.S. Like, there's not to go down any kind of political path, but, you know, the U.S. have kind of been this, like, dominant force in global politics for since, what would you say, World War II?
Yeah.
Beyond? And so this is the world's chance to get their digs in, because soccer's just not our thing the way it is in other parts of the world. So
Yeah.
I think it's just fun for them to we're an easy target, and I think that's what it is.
We are an easy target. I wonder who's making us easy. Josh McElhenney.
What did that mean?
Josh McElhenney.
I don't care for any of your antics, quite frankly, in tonight's show. And I'm afraid, because you already teased something coming later in the show that I'm sure is going to be directed at me. I don't know what it is.
All you had to say was, nice do. Where'd you get it done? So, Josh McElhenney, I've only started listening to the pod a few months back, but it's easily my favourite pod to listen to and from work. Thank you very much, Josh. JJ, can you please create a World Cup song? I'm missing my weekly dose of the CONCACAF Champions League remix.
Let's give you a week to think of one. I don't want spur of the moment here. You got to sit on this and think about it.
Can I just say something? Don't think I haven't thought about it, Josh. I'm a weird guy.
But what will the tune be to? Like CONCACAF Champions League, we have the Champions League anthem to work off of.
I went more specific than that. My girlfriend caught me wandering around the apartment in a towel after coming out of the shower, so there's an image, trying to make Chiquitita by ABBA work. For Chicharito, didn't you know? You had to score the goals. You're out of the tournament now. Because I thought Mexico were going out before the Sweden game. And she goes,
That's really something.
She goes, what are you doing? And I'm like, I'm trying to make Chicharito and Chiquitita work.
And yet you have the nerve to sit there and make fun of me for EPL, back for more. Unbelievable.
We didn't start to be.
More mail?
We haven't finished yet. For real, do you guys see any up-and-comers so far from this tournament? Last tournament we had James Rodriguez, and with every team being all over the place, I can't tell. I hope you guys can give me some insight. Can I just do mine quickly?
I have 4 names that I'm ready to just fire at you.
Takashi Inui is 30, but I've loved him. I've absolutely loved him, so he's not a newcomer. Ismail Sarr, I'm really upset he's out of the tournament because I honestly really enjoyed watching him play. Yerry Mina is way better in the opposition box than he may be in his own box, but I've enjoyed him too, and I think you can see little bits of why Barcelona spent so much money on him.
But their fans don't care for him.
No, don't.
Let's see. I was looking at Russia, because that was a team that I expected so little of coming into this tournament. But Cheryshev and Golovin, I think, have both been pretty good. Juan Quintero for Colombia.
He's a really good player.
Assists in each of their group stage games. And then, obviously, I go online, not even searching like Quintero plus whatever. I just put in his name, and the first thing that comes up is that Spurs are apparently now interested. Are they going to do that thing again like they did with Moussa Sissoko after the European Championships, where a guy gets hot for a few weeks? Because he's kind of like toiled at Porto.
Hot for a few weeks. Sissoko.
I'm talking about Quintero.
Oh.
Because he's toiled at FC Porto. He hasn't broken through. He's gone out on loan. I think he's actually about to sign on for a permanent move to River Plate, I believe.
Or Boca, one or the other. Is it River Plate?
I don't know. I don't want to get that wrong.
I think it's
dangerous.
River. Oh, that is dangerous.
Well, look. So he was one that I was thinking of. And then also Sergei Milinkovic-Savic. Kind of disappointed to see him out because I've really enjoyed him. Plays obviously for Lazio, 23 years old. And I think that's a name that people are going to want to remember after this tournament if they weren't aware of it already.
That was the mailbag.
Oh, yeah. Let's see. What to watch for time. Once every 4 years, we get to do a what to watch for of the round of 16 of the World Cup. And
it's
here
special.
We're in the moment right now. This really is special. First one, Saturday, 10 a.m., France and Argentina. They do, in fact, get through. And actually, we have found over the past couple weeks, I'd say, that Argentina and Germany have really emerged as, I guess, probably the two most talked about, two most interesting teams in this World Cup. Obviously, we spent some time talking about Germany already, but let's get a little bit more into the Argentina side of this. And we're joined now by Roy Nemmer of MundoAlbiceleste.com. He covers Argentina for that website, and we're really pumped to have him on now to get a little deeper into the Argentina side of things. Roy, what's up, man?
Hey, but just very, very happy that Argentina's in the next round.
Yeah.
I'm doing good. How are you guys?
We're good. Actually, that's exactly the jumping off point that I was kind of hoping we'd have. Obviously, you're happy. Argentinian fans are thrilled. But I feel like in this case, there's almost a difference between happy and pleased, if you know what I'm saying. Like, I feel like Argentina fans are very happy that the team is in. But, I mean, how do you feel about this team right now? Do you actually feel good heading into the round of 16?
I feel, let's just say I feel relieved. I said it at the start, actually prior to the start of the tournament, I said this team either crashes out in the group stages or, don't ask me how, no logic whatsoever, I feel like this team could somehow make the final. Granted, like I said, there's no logic in there, but I feel like up against France, listen, France are definitely one of the favorites. Individually speaking, they have probably the best team in the tournament, but they're not playing as a team. And on their day, I think they're beatable. I don't think they've looked convincing at all. And maybe I'm biased, but I feel like Argentina could pull it off. They just got off a big 2-1 win. I know Nigeria is probably not near the level of France. No disrespect to them, obviously, but I feel like on their day, you could definitely beat France and never count out a team that has Messi.
Sampaoli, Mascherano, who's in charge now?
Flip of the coin, depends on the hour of the day. I feel like it's a bit of both. Sampaoli's always spoken to Mascherano. That's sort of been known since the very start. He's always spoken to him about tactics and whatnot. And even before him, Tata Martino and Alex Sabella and the last World Cup, he spoke to Mascherano. So a lot of the coaches speak to him. Now it's just, I feel like a lot of it's been maybe blown out of proportion, and people just kind of be like, oh, well, you know what, Sampaoli's lost the entire team. Forget it. This is Mascherano. It's Messi's team, and they decide. I don't get that same vibe as everyone else, at least not 100%. Does Mascherano have an input on the team? For sure. Is it 100% his? I doubt it. I really feel like it's still a little bit Sampaoli's team. I'd say maybe even 50-50. But Mascherano definitely has a say in there.
Roy Nemmer of Mundo Albiceleste joining us here on Caught Offside. Roy, I'm very curious, what is the root of all the dysfunction that we've heard about within this team? Does it come from Sampaoli? Is this a particularly difficult group of players? Is it beyond that? Is it the federation in Argentina? I mean, what is the root of just all the problems that we've seen with them?
It's the federation. It's poor planning. The last time Argentina had a proper coach was Sabella in 2014, and prior to that was Jose Pekerman, who's now coaching Colombia, and this was back in 2006. You're talking about, I believe it's 8 or 9 different managers in the past 10 years, which is a very, very high number. The federation not properly building. The youth team, we used to, it was like a conveyor belt of talent, nonstop talent coming up, and now you feel like that talent is not at the same level as it was before. The planning in the youth is very, very poor. Then moving on up to the senior team, different coaches, no money. And this is something that was reported, or at least touched upon a little bit during the 2016 Copa America 2 years ago. The players themselves had to pay for their flights, for their accommodation, for their food, just because the federation had no money. Julio Olarte-Cochea, who was the coach of the under-23 team of the Olympics in 2016, went on record. He was talking to the media and said, I had to talk to my daughter to get some money, to get some funding in order for me to be able to go to Brazil, to go to Rio for the Olympics. That's how much money the federation does not have. Imagine that. They don't even have enough money to send the players there. You had people like Maradona who were in charge of the team who had no business. After that came Sergio Batista, who was very, very poor. They've been using Messi to promote the team like a circus just to get some money out of him. They've been doing it for, I'd say, 10 years now, easily. There's nothing. There's no planning. There's nothing whatsoever. Everything that was good about Argentina, the national team, 20 years ago, is all out the window. I mean, no disrespect to any of the players on the team, because despite all the hardships and everything that they've gone through, I still love them despite the 3 finals lost. But take Messi out of that team, and Argentina are not a threat to anyone whatsoever. None of the elite teams, they would not be. So it's no money mixed with poor planning, mixed with a lot of these players maybe, overstaying their welcome, so to speak. And that's not necessarily the players' fault, but it's the coaches, and ultimately the coaches down to the federation. You have a guy like Tata Martino, who's now coaching the MLS, who wanted a certain amount of players. Like, listen, he gave the Argentine Federation a list of players that he wanted for the Olympics, and they told him, no, you're not getting that. And they sort of, bossed him around, so to speak, to the point where he just quit. They didn't want him. They didn't want to fire him because they couldn't afford to fire him. So they just pushed him to the point where he quit. And it's bad. It's poor planning. I go back to it. We're talking about 3 different coaches in the past year coaching the senior team, which is unheard of.
Right, that's pretty grim, and it's kind of backed up almost verbatim about the dysfunction that Jorge Valdano wrote about in his Guardian piece, which I'm sure you've read. Roy, should we expect the same? I'm interested in this team because as much as you say this team is nothing without Messi, and I concur, I'm just wondering what kind of midfield can we expect? Is it going to be this? Have they found the formula against Nigeria that they'll take into the game against France? Will there be more tinkering? Will Banega start? Is it possible that they looked at Pavon and said this guy should start because he gives us something else wide? What's your thoughts on what will be the starting 11 against France?
Yeah, there are some reports coming out that it's going to be the same starting 11, so same midfield, same back line, same goalkeeper. Bar one thing, and this is a minor possibility, that Christian Pavon, player who you mentioned, might come in for Gonzalo Higuain, which would mean that Messi would play in that false number 9 role. But that's a minor possibility. In terms of the midfield, it's going to be the same one. It's going to be Banega, Mascherano, Enzo Perez, and Di Maria.
And the manager, Mascherano, let's just call him the manager. he seems to be on the same page as Sampaoli. He doesn't fancy Dybala either. We get so many tweets about why isn't Dybala starting? People who love Serie A and believe he should be automatically in the team. Why isn't Dybala starting?
Yeah, that's a very good question. To be honest with you, judging by what's being said and what we hear and everything, it's just a matter of, not that there's no space on the team or anything like that, but I feel like his comments, and this is my personal opinion, I feel like his comments when he came out a couple of months back saying it's difficult to play with Messi or he can't play with Messi, I feel like that really ticked Sampaoli off. And maybe there isn't that chemistry between Messi and Dybala, honestly. They've played together maybe once or twice. There's no chemistry. Dybala hasn't necessarily found his feet within the team as well. I can't recall a single good match that he played for Argentina, as much as I hate to say it. And in a World Cup, you can't rely on building that chemistry at a World Cup. It's 7 matches, you're in, you're out, and that's it. And I feel like they're hoping, they're gambling on going with Messi alongside Aguero or Di Maria and Higuain, just because that chemistry has been there for a couple of years. And, it looks like they're going to go with that rather than risking it with Dybala, just because, like I said, he hasn't really found his feet with Argentina yet.
Roy, last one from me, and it's about Messi. I mean, just the look on his face, JJ and I talked about it during the national anthem following the Iceland game. He looks like a guy in pain, and the relief that kind of poured out of him after Argentina did advance. It was clearly noticeable. What is his relationship with the country, with the fan base? It looks like he is shouldering the weight of an entire nation right now.
That's because he is. That's honestly because he is. His relationship has gotten better throughout the years. At first, it was very, very dark. A lot of people didn't like him. They called him Spaniard. A lot of them said, "Well, he's not even Spaniard. He's Catalan. He's Catalonia, Barcelona." But that's changed. The opinion has strongly changed in the past couple of years, especially after the qualifier, his hat trick against Ecuador, where he literally dragged the team to the World Cup. The expectations it's all on him. As unfair as it is, and I'm the first one to raise my hand and say it's completely unfair because it's a team effort. If he plays well, the team plays well, and they'll get the praise. If he doesn't play well, just like he did against maybe Croatia, then he's going to shoulder all the blame, and you have 40 million Argentines plus who knows how many millions of fans around the world that, feel like, well, you know what, maybe Messi let us down, and they start to doubt themselves and everything, which I think is unfair anyways. But yeah, it's all on him, right? Whatever comes through Argentina is coming through him. It's unfair, but unfortunately it is how it is. And luckily for him, luckily for Argentina, he got bailed out by Marcos Rojo against Nigeria. Finally, for the first time in I don't know how many years, someone helped Messi out in an Argentina match by scoring a big goal.
Yeah, it's especially unfair when you see like Gonzalo Higuain skying a ball over the net for however many times it's been. I mean, you do feel for the guy, but like you say, there's relief. Argentina have advanced, and now it's France and Argentina Saturday at 10 a.m. Roy, good stuff, man. Like we said, the website is mundoalbiceleste.com. Thanks for your time. Good luck this weekend.
Thank you, guys. Thank you for having me, and thanks for the good luck. We're going to need it. Thank you.
Colossal mess in the Argentinian FA. Like Jorge, the article I referred to, Jorge Valdano's article in The Guardian, doesn't go into that kind of detail, so it's good that Roy kind of fleshed it out a bit. But Valdano talked about corruption, and I guess the fact they have no money, you got to ask questions. And
Messi retired over all of this,
yeah,
and he had to be dragged back. So I think we knew that there was clearly something there.
This isn't just team-based, it's systemic. It was interesting that what Roy said, but also what Valdano said was a player scores 3 goals in Argentina and makes a couple of headlines, and immediately Argentinian clubs are trying to flog him to Europe. So there's a development issue there as well. Remember Roy said that the conveyor belt had slowed down. I mean, he's kind of right.
Yeah. Let's see, we continue now. Saturday, 2 o'clock p.m., Uruguay and Portugal. I really have no idea what this game is going to be.
It could be the worst game of the last 16.
Maybe. I don't know if that would be my pick, simply because there is a lot of talent that will be on display here.
I mean, Uruguay haven't conceded a goal. Do we think they've clicked into life now suddenly because of the 3 goals against Russia? I'm not sure. Do they go back to what Tim Vickery called playing football in a bunker? Maybe. Portugal, I mean...
You know why I like this game? Because I feel like it's one of the few games that I look at. Maybe there's more than a few, but it's one of the few games I look at here where I think you can definitively say that each team believes they should beat the other.
100%.
So I think that could create a fairly fun game to watch. You won't necessarily get, like Japan are going to sit back against Belgium, presumably, unless their manager hates himself after what he just did in today's game. But what Mexico did to Germany, they may do to Brazil. But this is one where I don't know. Both teams may go for it because I believe that they both think that they should definitely be advancing. Sunday, 10 a.m. Spain and the host nation Russia, which kind of feels like the X factor in all of this. Can they do it?
So they can play against teams